Alright, I'm on my compact 16 looking at the compression post directly beneath the mast and the bracket. And it runs all the way down to the top of the keel. When you cut it, leave about a ½ inch between the bottom of the post and the keel. You'll want to put a large wedge in there, just for future knowledge. But the first thing you'll want to do is remove this bracket. You'll take out the 4 screws, pry it off. It's real simple, easy to do. And you'll find underneath there's 2 holes. Personally, they used really small fittings originally, so I went ahead and drilled those out to 3/8 of an inch to accommodate a ½ inch self-drilling lag bolt, 3 inches long. And you'll have to drill out a larger hole, not all the way through, just as shallow as you can keep it in order to accommodate the bolt head so that this can still sit flush on the deck. So get your bolts, look at the bolt head, pick a bit that will fit it, and just drill in as shallow as you can. And once you do that, come down here. There will be 2 holes here. Go ahead and pre-drill those. You do not have to drill to accommodate the bolt heads here. Just drill it out 3/8. Again, 3-inch lag bolts, ½ inch. And you'll want someone, this is a 2-person job at this point, you'll want someone to hold the post firmly against the ceiling and firmly against the center of your holes here. Seated in there, and have the person up top mark the holes for the top bolts. You mark your holes for the bottom bolts, pivot it out through the hole, slide it out. Note that this will be a little key-shaped hole because the original compression post is a little dinky 2x3. I decided I didn't like that. I would go up to a 4x4. So I cut out the rectangle. You'll note that if you feel inside of that keyhole, there's boards surrounding that hole. I left basically my fingertips gap just to make sure that those boards are still overlapping good. Seat it in there, or don't seat it in there, pull it out, and drill out your holes for the 3-inch screws. Drill it out 3/8 again, so those ½ inch can really do their self-drilling. So drill it out, bring it back in, seat it up here. Make sure you put the top screws in first. Put the top screws in first, holding it firmly in position. Use an impact driver to get those screws in so it really goes in good. It'll pull it tight. Then you just pivot your 4x4 against the holes. Put those in with the impact. It'll be pretty firmly in place at this point. Those bolts aren't going to really go anywhere. But you'll have your ½ inch gap between your post and your keel at this point. So what you'll do is get a big wedge. It's down in there. And to put that in, I put the head of the hammer against the back of the wedge and beat it in like this, kind of pivot hitting it against this board. You'll see it dented it a little bit, but it's not really anything worth noting. I spent a long time doing that just to make sure it was good and set. It pulls it real tight up against the ceiling. At this point, you just get in whatever wedges you can in there. It'll be little small ones to hold it in tight. And trust me, this thing ain't going nowhere. After that, you'll want to come up top, seal off your holes. Personally, I think you cannot overseal. So I wet the whole back of that bracket with sealant, the whole top of the deck with sealant, sandwiched it in there, sealed it around the edge, sealed it above the screws. It's not the prettiest job, but it is effective. And at that point, you'll have your compression post in. It takes, honestly, not even a half a day to do, but you'll want to stain your post, so it's more like a 2-day job. Just waiting for that stain to dry. Easy peasy. 4 bolts. And a little bit of prying and a little bit of caulking. Easy. 4200 sealant, obviously. It's got a lot of flex. It'll allow that mast to move just a little bit. You don't want to go 5200 because then it might end up cracking the sealant because it can't move and that mast is putting force on it. Easy peasy.